Da-dum.
Hey,
Hey, can you hear me?
yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Are you good to go?
Yeah, I get,
Excellent.
it's been a day, but I'm good to go.
Cool. Then I say the words theme song, and then I drop in a theme song in post. But for this, we just kind of talk through it for the video version. And then theme song ends, and I say,
Have you decided what the theme song is going to be?
oh yeah, I've had a theme song. We're like 34 episodes in, so I've got a theme song on lock. It is the intro riff to a song by a band named Socratic, and the song itself is called "I Haven't Seen You in Years," which I
Right.
felt was very apropos for this show. Anyway,
Yes, it is.
but yeah, then the theme song ends, and I say, "Hello and welcome to Hello We Don't Talk, Let's Talk," the show where I, Christopher Hua, reconnect with old friends. And today we have the Vigilant. Fitsum. I've never had to say your last name. Is it just Areguy?
Yeah, phonetically, just like that.
Cool. Fitsum Areguy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Been very hesitant about having you on because, as you may have experienced from the whole booking process, I believed you were a very busy man, and I was proven correct.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry about how long it took
Not a problem
to make this happen, but yeah, in a very busy season of my life right now, and just was difficult. But I think it was funny that I flagged to you that I was down for the interview on a game of Among Us.
Indeed.
I like that.
Just getting it as public as possible, generating the hype, as it were.
Yeah.
I think that means I have to get Andy on at some point, though. So that's fine.
You jumped the gun there. I was gonna say maybe Andy's next, right? So what have you been up to?
Oh, I've been very much kind of coasting in life for the most part, actually. So I think the last time we saw each other was at the Cameron Heights reunion, very briefly. And then other than that, most of our communication has just been like, here's some Kanye news, and we'll send a DM to each other because that was that's a common interest that we have.
Us supporters of Kanye are few and far in between these days.
Yeah, the wagon is being cleared of truly the faithless.
Yeah, that's the truth. And it's funny because my partner, who you may know because we all went to high school together, Andrea, she's watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians because she's just on this like reality TV show binge right now. And I'm not going to knock reality TV. I think it's pretty interesting. I struggle to watch it, episode to episode, back to back, but she's been powering through like a champ. And the show becomes like immensely more interesting for me when Connie enters the scene or enters the family. All my criticisms of the family and that dynamic notwithstanding, Connie just makes every scene better.
He has such a charisma about him.
Yeah,
it's hard to not pay your attention when he is on screen.
Yeah, and then the fashion too. Like I watched, bits and pieces of the early seasons of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and this style is just horrible. Like it's very, I think it was appropriate for the time period. But when Kanye enters, like the fashion just skyrockets. It's so much better.
He can't be seen in public with these other people.
No, he's like, now I'm your designer now. Yeah. That's it. And then they start using Kanye's music in the episodes. I'm like, oh wow, like graduation, late registration.
Yeah. Just bringing in a bit of a slightly new audience in case people weren't paying attention before. It's a hook. It's a hook.
Yeah, exactly. So coasting, what does coasting mean exactly? Like
most of my days are kind of just routine, not really advancing myself as much as, like society would want someone to do. Just kind of staying alive rather than living, if that makes any sense, is how I currently see it.
How do you define advancing yourself?
Really just taking in any experience that is new. I'm just kind of falling into like the same routine and just like kind of stagnating, where, very little kind of changes on a day-to-day or even like month to month. Now, granted, quarantine makes it so that, a lot of options are kind of restrictive, but even before quarantine, I wouldn't say that I was like doing much.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's important to recognize that rhetoric around improving oneself or advancing, one's, development can sometimes fall into that trap of, your value being tied into your ability to produce in a capitalistic society. So that's, I don't know, that I think you could trouble that, that notion. I think you could reframe, your coasting as, the great refusal of a capitalist society, just saying, fuck that. I don't want to buy into that myth that you need to constantly be busy and constantly be producing things. And I'm saying that as a busy person, but I think my busyness is, it's not rooted in this idea of like, okay, I need to make a 6-figure salary like soon. It's more so school has been tough and I'm doing full-time school while full-time work to try and save money. And then once I'm done my master's, I don't see myself going back to school for a very long time, which will hopefully make me less busy.
You've had a sufficient amount of school at this point.
Yes, I have. Yeah. But I've been trying to think. I mean, I haven't listened through all the episodes, admittedly.
That's perfectly fine. I would struggle to find anybody who has solely based on the fact that like, I think a lot of people will only listen to episodes where, they know who the guest is and have a desire to learn what their life has been like in the years that they have not spoken. Because, reaching out and like DMing people, it's an awkward exchange to have. So I shoulder the burden by being the conduit for that line of communication, just to like get a brief glimpse that, may not necessarily appear on like Instagram or whatever.
I think about that a lot. Like, I'm a very nostalgic person.
Sure.
I don't delete people from my social media. People who I probably will never speak to again, like in person. Case in point, there's one person who's on my Facebook who we grew up together at the YMCA and like leadership programs. And he's a quiet kid then. We weren't terribly close, but we're friends on Facebook. And then I tuned into his Facebook a few years later. Turns out he's a Proud Boy now. Like,
yikes.
Just tattoos and everything. I was trying to like envision like a scenario where I would actually connect with this person, and try and see like, what the hell happened in between the time when we were innocent children to
the present. But
yeah, I mean, that sort of scenario, that sort of encounter is still, it's not just rooted in like a curiosity. I think it's also rooted in something where I just don't want to cut people off. And I think back more fondly than harshly most of the time.
Likewise. Like, I know people who, they get out a lot and they'll just add pretty much everybody to Facebook. But like, I think every sort of friend I have on the platform is someone who, I have not like intense connection with, but like a reasonably okay connection to. And even though I don't talk to them, I don't feel any need to like be like, well, this is adding no value to my life. I'm just going to trim this down. Like, it doesn't really, like, it doesn't impact my life having them on there or not.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I go through these sort of peaks and valleys of like, I won't delete anyone, but I will and have deactivated my account on Facebook just to give myself a breather, just to give myself some space. But I find I keep coming back for a lot of reasons. One, for what we just talked about, keeping in touch, even peripherally. And also, like, I have a lot of friends and family from around the world that like Facebook is my only point of connection for them. So it's really hard to think about cutting that off completely. But also because I've had so many people reach out to me more recently, like in the last 3 years or so, who tell me that they're so thankful for the things that I post via social media, particularly around like racial justice and, social issues. I tend to, I don't know. I mean, you purview, social media and things that I post, I'm sure as well. I try to facilitate a discussion that's not too pointed, or, if there are opposing sides and people are taking shots, I try to maintain some sort of civil discourse.
Yeah, you maintain a sense of decorum even if there are opposing views, at least from what I've seen.
Yeah. And I mean,
having the discussions, like maybe
yeah,
not even change minds, but like allow minds to be changed, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And it's like, I may choose not to engage with somebody because their opposing view negates the humanity of another person. I mean, opposing views are one thing, just straight up violence is another. But I'm sure to always, or I try to always address those things, not only because I think I can do it in a way that can connect with people, even if they're not seeing things the way I'm seeing them or understanding them in the same way, or have the privilege of the education and mentorship that I've had up until this point, but also because I have a lot of people who depend on me in the community, and they're seeing things that happen on my wall as well. And if I don't address those things, then I'm not a safe person for them anymore, or I'm less safe than they thought.
Gotcha.
And so that sort of thing, that's responsibility weighs on me to respond to these things. And it also is it adds a lot of work and time. But then I get, the odd message here and there from somebody who's like, yo, you've shaped my life and you have no idea that you did that. So that's pretty cool to get. But I did want to ask you, do you get messages, you said that you're a conduit for people.
Sure.
To catch up with folks who they haven't caught up with in a long time. So people have reached out to you then?
I had 2 people message me directly to just like say that they appreciated the show. I don't quite remember the specifics of like their wordings and stuff, but they it seemed to give, especially during quarantine, with like how weird everything has been, and maybe people are not as connected or like online as I am. They just kind of said to me, like this is giving me something to look forward to a lot of weeks. I'm just like, oh, cool. Did not expect that to happen starting this out, but it's another one of those things. It's just like good to hear.
Yeah, no, that is a good thing to hear. You said something that I thought was interesting just now. Your people are not on the internet as much as you are.
Yes.
How do you define like on the internet? For me, I guess I'll just say that I thought like your content reminds me a lot of like the parts of Twitter, the parts of Reddit I like. Sneakerhead stuff, hip hop stuff.
Yeah.
Slightly, I would say slightly edgier than what I would post on average. But yeah, I feel like it's like you talk a little bit about culture. I feel like it's a lot of like black Twitter recycled through black Twitter subreddit.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
That is 100% accurate.
Okay.
It's mostly just like stuff that I find to be funny or of note that ends up getting posted to my wall. Because most of my life has just been like, well, I enjoy getting people to laugh. Like laughter is just like one of those, it's just like a brief moment where like I think I put this in like a post once, but it's just like laughter is your body involuntarily making a sound because you're just like overjoyed with like your reaction to something. And in that moment, a lot of things kind of go away. You could look at it afterward, like whatever the laugh trigger was, and like look at it closely now that the laugh fit is over, and like examine that however you will. But in that one moment, yeah, There's just like no real negativity.
That's interesting.
That's how I see it.
Maybe in like maybe in that suspended moment. Yeah, and I think especially the way that you go about trying to make people laugh. I love stand up. I'm not saying that this is stand up, but although I think you should try it.
That is a point of feedback that I've heard many times. It is combated very strongly by my sense of stage fright, and I feel like I do not yet know how to craft a joke. I've had a bunch of premises about like what my stand-up would look like, but as I did not write them down, I'm getting farther and farther away from like having the ability to forge a stand-up set, forge a type 5, if you will.
Yeah. I think it used to be easier. Like when the jokes were, when the brunt of a joke or the thing that would be made fun of, so to speak, were other people, LGBTQ people just for being queer or trans or whatever, or like racist jokes. That stuff used to fly, years ago. Even from like my favorite comics back in the day, a lot of them Black comics, Eddie Murphy, for example, Bernie Mac, R.I.P. But I think these days we're seeing a new cohort, a generation of comics who are just so good at what they do. Like Mulrooney. Not Mulrooney. What's his name? Not Mulrooney. What's his name? John Maloney. John Maloney. Yeah, Mulaney. Thank you. I was like, Mulrooney. I was just thinking sorry about Ben Mulrooney.
Just like the freaking E-Talk Daily guy.
Yo, his wife got in some shit recently. But anyways, whatever. Yeah, right. Like his jokes are so good. And it doesn't involve, horrible shit. Like he's just that witty. And I think that based on the stuff that you post, I feel like you could craft a type 5 that could do that.
Oh yeah. I think if I had a starting off point, it would just be like framing my parents as just like terrible roommates.
Are they?
I haven't lived with them in a while, so like my memory's getting kind of fuzzy. So it's just like my dad, for instance, he can't open a box in like a clean way. So like if you go to open a box, like grab a box of cereal, it's just like in tatters. So it's just like, how did you manage this? Like why? How? There are creases here. There's perforated lines. Like, come on, man, you got this. I believe in you.
Jeez.
But I don't know how to launch that into a series of jokes.
Yeah.
But I feel like that would be where I started, or at least that's a thought that I had at some point.
I think that's great. Like, yeah, if I were to do stand-up, I would definitely start with my parents. Not my mom. She's a sweetheart and an angel, but my dad, yeah, definitely. I have lots of memories of, experiences I can mine. And, to go back to your earlier point about, expanding your experiences, these conversations with people, you can mine that for jokes.
Oh, for sure.
I think you absolutely should. Did you have a good relationship with your parents?
From the ages of I'd say 4 is when I started like being aware of my surroundings. So from like 4 until how old am I now? 28. Let's say 28. Like my parents were the kind of people who just straight up worked pretty much all day. So when I was in elementary school, I would wake up at 6 or 7, get ready to go to school, get dropped off at school, and then I would walk to my grandparents' house, who was like near the school, and then I would hang out with my uncles that were still living with their parents, and they would take care of my sister and I until like 8 or 9, maybe even 10 p.m. when we would get picked up by mom or dad or whoever was tasked with getting us to our actual familial home. And then, shortly thereafter, we would go to bed because we were kids, and that's just bedtime.
Right.
So I didn't get to like really see them that much.
You're an only child?
I have a sister. She's 2.5 years older, and she has talked to me about some things, and like she has a desire to like sort of reconcile with our parents, and because she has had her conversations with people where they're just like, that's kind of fucked up. They didn't really get to see your parents for a lot of your life. Like as we became young adults, I think I just kind of retreated into like my video games and like my online communities. And even then my parents still worked like pretty much all day. So like it'd be school for me, get home, fuck around on the internet a bit, say hi to my parents, ask them how their day was, and then shortly thereafter go to bed again. So there's just like a lot of time not spent with my parents. They took care of me as best they could, not being around and all.
Right.
And like even in August, my mom had her birthday, and she had actually like unexpectedly apologized for not being there as much as she wanted to. And I had an understanding that, well, you and Dad did what you had to like keep the house and everything afloat as best you could. Like I don't fault them for anything. Yeah.
I had the same sort of like moment with my mom, like maybe 2 years ago. She just like randomly invited me out for coffee, and she just like unexpectedly apologized for anything that she might have done that was like not okay. And I was like, it took me aback for sure. I think that sort of thing is common, as we grow older. The line between the parental line, that is, where agency or, an understanding of someone's personhood is unidirectional, right? A child is just a young, underdeveloped adult. But then which is in my opinion, not a good way to frame, young people. It leads to all sorts of problems. But as we grow older and they see us as adults, they start to treat us differently. And it leads to all these like weird admissions and apologies and what have you. Yeah. But I mean, I'm asking you all these questions, I think, because I feel like we didn't talk that much in high school.
Oh, we absolutely didn't.
Yeah, we didn't, right? Okay, good.
Like most of my connections on Facebook, even though as I said earlier, they're not like intimate relationships, but like I feel like I have an okay connection to most of them.
Yeah.
Like there were a lot of people that I didn't talk to in high school because I was a shy kid. Where in a group setting, I'm not speaking up a lot of the time, unless it's to make a short one-liner.
So what do you remember? What do you remember of me in high school then?
Honestly, very little, because you were a year older. I was friends with the people that hung out with you, like people like Kaz, and I can only really think of Kaz if I'm being honest.
Yes, Kaz. Yeah,
the tall man of Lithuanian proud heritage.
Have you interviewed him yet?
So the premise of the show is the fact that I don't talk to a lot of people that often.
Right.
However, through quarantine, I've started talking to Kaz a lot because we just play a lot of the same video games. And I was able to reconnect with a lot of people in that way, and that has disqualified them from appearing on the show until I do like a special episode.
Yeah.
Like I plan on episode 50 being a show where I talk to Eddie Kim. He doesn't know this yet, but nice. He is a guy I talk to with some frequency. But I know a lot of people are very interested about hearing from him, but maybe don't want to flood his DMs with a million different questions.
Yeah, no, for sure. Kaz, man, I should really reach out to Kaz soon. We were neighbors, very close. He lived on...
Back when he lived on Franklin.
Yeah, exactly. So you've been to his house, right? So on Franklin, I lived across the street at the end of the road. We both saw Jamal Murray grow up. Nowadays it's like, to say that, people are like, yeah, right. Because of how big he is.
Sure.
But literally, we played basketball with him. His dad was training him and telling us to play harder defense. Me more than Kaz, admittedly, but Kaz bore witness to that. So he's one of those people that I absolutely have to keep around as if I need anybody to verify a story about Jamal, And there are a few for sure. Kaz is the guy to back it up. Although, I don't know if you ever heard the story of when I was assaulted by somebody in the morning of a school day and then dragged into school. Did I tell you the story ever?
I don't think I've ever heard the story.
Okay, well, this is partially my doing. So I think it was in grade 10 because I transferred into Cameron in grade 10. We would take the 8 bus down Ottawa and then go up Weber, and then we'd get off at Weber and Cameron and then walk down Cameron Street just straight to school. And that was the route that Kaz and myself would take. And there was this house on Cameron that was like sort of the most rundown house on that street. Someone had the bright idea, I don't remember who, to like knock on that door early in the morning, like a Nicky Nine Doors type of bullshit thing that
miscreants.
Yes, yeah, seriously. And then this lady came out and she was like, you like you get off our property. And we're not all black. It was me, Thomas, Dowett, because they took the bus too, and Kaz at the time. And like we thought it was the funniest thing. So we did that, intermittently. It wasn't a daily thing.
Sure.
But it was enough for them to know, oh damn, here those rascals again, those damn kids. The following year, my brother Paulos started, so he'd be your year. I don't know if you remember Paulos at all. He was a pretty shy guy too.
Vaguely.
Yeah, okay. But he did not want to do this. Like, he did not want to knock on this door. So it took like a month of just like straight bullying him until he got to the point where he could knock on the door, just timidly, so clearly didn't want to be there. And instead of an old lady, it was this big dude, like 6 foot something, matted hair, wife beater. He walks out. He's like, I'm gonna get you. And then just chased after us in his flip flops. And Kaz, oh my gosh, am I misremembering this? I believe Kaz was there.
We'll get to verify.
We'll have to verify it.
Pod.
Yes. But definitely Thomas, definitely Dowett. And then my brother. And I've never seen my brother run as fast as he did then. He booked it. Everybody else ran really far away very quickly. I didn't take it as seriously. So I was jogging, laughing. I get to Cameron and King, turn around, boom, he's there. Tackles me in the middle of King Street. Cars are swerving.
Gosh.
He's breathing down my neck. I finally got you. He pulls me in to the foyer. Somebody had the gall to say, yo, Fitz, is that your dad? No, this dude is not my father. He's dragging me into school. Into the front office. And that a school resource officer was already there. The hall monitors, they pried him off me, and the VP talked to me, and he's like, I told him the story. He's like, what happened? And I was like, honestly, there's been this guy who's been knocking on their door for months.
Could have been anyone. We
don't know him. So the VP pulled out a yearbook. He's like, can you point out who it could have been? And I straight sold people, I was like, yeah, could have been here. Yeah, could have been him. Maybe him. He was in a hoodie most of the time. Anyways, nothing ever came of it. They believed me, and how could they not?
You're a baby face Fitz back then.
Yes, that's right. Right. And I didn't want, even though, and this is why I evoked Kaz's name, all of them ditched me. They didn't come back to save me. Not one person. So, I never forgot that. But, I lied to protect my brother and my friends. And then I revealed that lie. Or I told that story again and revealed that it was a lie when I told it at my valedictorian speech for commencement.
I see.
And the VP came up to me afterwards and said, you really embarrassed us up there. Choosing you to be valedictorian was a mistake. You're never going to amount to much in life.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, yo, fuck you. I'm out.
Got him.
Got him. Yeah. So, if you talk to Kaz, ask him if he was there.
I thought that story was going to turn into like, we know it was you, but man, that took a much worse turn than I was hoping for. Man.
Hey, you know what? I get to prove them wrong.
Yeah.
So it's fine. But I'm curious because I'm sorry. I feel like I sort of hijacked it, but I guess it's just a conversation. We're just chilling. Did you have questions for me?
Yeah. So I usually start off most of my shows by asking my guests, how are you doing today?
Oh God. Yeah, today was interesting. Yeah, I fired off some ill-advised tweets early in the morning.
Gotcha.
So I'm working right now as a reporter at the Waterloo Region Record.
Mm-hmm.
On contract. I'm hired under a federally funded program called the Local Journalism Initiative. So my contract is up until March. My training and education is not in journalism, so it's been a steep learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and so there was somebody in the community who I won't name who tweeted something along the lines of like, he retweeted a Record article about gunshots early morning, Thursday,
mm-hmm.
and tweeted like, oh my gosh, is there gang violence in this region?
That's something that I've noticed happening a lot in like the Reddit comments of like Kitchener crime stories, where it's like they're either blaming people for Toronto or just like some offhanded comment about crime in the region's only going to go up these days. It's just like, what the fuck is this person talking about?
Well, it's there's a lot of reasons why the police would want more narratives about increasing crime because it further legitimizes their existence.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to get into that too much. And in fact, I won't even fully explain what the tweet was, but it essentially espoused that and made the argument that, first of all, you're assuming gang violence, which, in an area that's predominantly Black, that's a problem. But also the tweet also took shot at the role of traditional media in upholding and, keeping intact systems of power and the status quo. So essentially was critical of the paper, my employer. So, editor-in-chief called me, it became a whole thing. And as I deleted the tweet.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. And then that's like, yeah. So it just led to like a whole cascade of like conversations with people about objectivity and, whether it's even possible to be objective. I think that's a really important conversation because people talk about facts like they're objective. They're really not. And I want to be careful too, because, I don't want this conversation to, delve too deep into like post-structuralism,
sure.
But because I do think that there's a line where if you cross it, when you think about these theories and ideas of subjectivity, objectivity, it gets, you can go too far down that road. But definitely reporters and journalists understand and know that objectivity is an ideal to strive towards. It isn't, you're never truly objective. You try your best to be. So yeah, I mean, those conversations are just, they abounded today. And I'm also working on a story about nuclear waste. I don't know if you heard, but in Teeswater, which is in South Bruce County, only an hour and a half away from us, the national, the Nuclear Waste Management Organization, which is a sort of an agency that's federally mandated to handle Canada's nuclear waste, is planning on dumping all of Canada's nuclear waste in Teeswater.
Why there?
Because that's where Bruce Power is, the Bruce Power Plant. That's the world's largest nuclear power plant.
Interesting.
Yeah, they've got eight reactors. Yeah. So we've got a lot of waste there. That cuts down on the transport of radioactive waste and nuclear waste because any amount of transport leads to some leakage of radioactive waste. So if you're moving waste from Calgary to Ontario. Like there's going to be Teeswater, Ontario. There's going to be some leakage. That's just they calculate for it. So it's ideal to have the storage be near where the plant is. And the community, it's a community divided. So my day was sort of spent talking to people there, politicians, different community members, to see, has there been enough community consultation? Do people know what they're saying yes to? And yeah, like how do you move forward on a project that's so highly contentious? And you also need to, and I also, in keeping in mind that the facility that they want to build, it's called the DGR, which is a deep geological repository. That's where they want to. That's where they want to store the nuclear waste.
Gotcha.
Underground, and the facility and the whole process, the project would lead to the employment of hundreds, thousands, lots of people at a time when economic, it's tough times out there for folks.
Places are shutting down. People are losing jobs left and right,
especially in rural areas, right?
Yeah. So, and any injection of jobs into the economy is got to be jumped on.
Exactly. And because this video is going to be posted publicly, we can talk offline about other things regarding that story. But
sure.
So it's an interesting story, and trying to write it up as even-handed as I can. And yeah, just giving every player, including the Nuclear Waste Management Organization, a fair shake.
Yep. The classic fairness doctrine type of idea.
Everyone gets
appropriately.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, everyone gets asked tough questions, right? And if they don't have good answers, then
that's on them.
It is, yeah. But journalism has been a weird.
Yeah, so you said that most of your education and training wasn't in journalism. So, like, especially in a time where, like big organization sort of media is getting scrutinized as hard as it is. Not scrutinized, just like flamed by a certain group of people. What made you jump into that sort of role?
That's a tough. I mean, for me, I believe journalism has a really important role to play in democracies. I think people look to the news, despite how much criticism, or heat media is getting. I think that heat is most certainly leveled at big media outlets and conglomerates. Local news is still the place where people go to know, what's happening in their communities, right? There's a big need for it. In our region, there was criticism that the paper was not, the people who were writing the news at the Record, which is the oldest and the biggest media house in the region, did not reflect the wider community and the way that it's growing. So I got a call from the editor-in-chief in June, I think it was June, saying, hey, this is sort of you're an unconventional choice, but I'd like to offer you this position. We have this funding for this, federally funded program. Is this something you'd be interested in doing? And I asked him straight up, I was like, am I just your diversity hire? Yeah. Are you just trying to stay, you don't want to be left behind. You want to, I'm fixing a problem. And that's, that may still be true to some extent. And what he told me was that, he could have hired somebody right out of journalism school, but I'm somebody who, all of my work has been in community. I have lots of relationships and connections and, just relationships and community that have come from just years of work and with the city and elsewhere. And so, yeah, he said that I have access to people and to stories on the ground, and that journalism gives you a platform, an opportunity to tell stories that aren't normally told.
Sure. And
it's led to some interesting opportunities and stories, and I am proud of some of the things I've been able to report on, but it's a steep learning curve. I've been feeling a lot of my stress these days is like, imposter syndrome, not being sure whether I can actually like be, in that newsroom. The reporters are so good at what they do. It takes me so much longer to finish a story. So I have to have like several irons in the fire so that I can pump out stories that I'm supposed to write like 3 to 4 stories a week. There's just no way that I can keep up that pace. So I try, but it's definitely other reporters who keep that paper afloat. But yeah, it keeps me busy. Like every single day, there's a different person I'm talking to, working on various stories, and it's a contract, so it'll be done in March. Ultimately, it's very synergetic with what I'm already doing, which is trying to give a platform to folks on the margins, and to be critical and to think critically. So yeah, I've had some good feedback on, from people who read the paper and folks who've said they've signed up for a subscription because I've been reporting, and that feels really nice. I definitely have been learning a lot, and I have a lot to learn still.
What would you say is the sort of one of the biggest things that you've learned so far in this role?
Biggest thing that I've learned. I'm not sure. Biggest thing, maybe the most significant has been. So I'll tell you a story to sort of illustrate this. I'm not sure when this was exactly. Could have been 2013, 2014. There was a situation with a Waterloo Regional Police officer who was caught, I believe, in London, soliciting young girls, young sex workers, very young. In fact, it became a child trafficking case. The cop told the London police, the Waterloo cop told London police, I'm with Waterloo, you can call them, and so they did. And the head of child trafficking there said, yeah, he's one of us, you can let him go. So he got off. A bunch of other Johns were charged. The crime reporter at the time was somebody who, and at that time, and right up until I got hired at the Record, I've been doing a lot of advocacy around racial justice and, community advocacy for, disabled communities, youth, and had a view of media as, an entity that is important, is needed, but often leads to a certain amount of harm. And the crime reporter who caught wind of this Waterloo cop was someone who I had initially had very critical opinions of. This reporter, who has a pretty good relationship with the police because she does the crime reporting, found out about it. Because of her relationship with the police, she was able to poke around at Waterloo to say, hey, I heard about this thing that happened in London. That went up the chain of command. And then it resulted in the head of child trafficking at the time to be demoted for doing that. And then
Justifiably so.
Yeah. And then the officer who was caught was then charged, but he was told to retire before he got charged so that he could retain his pension.
Yeah.
The reporter who wrote about this included that the officer, included the officer's name in the story, including the charge. The following day, that police officer threw himself off an overpass.
Oh wow!
And in his suicide note, he blamed
the writer.
He blamed the writer. Now, I think what it taught me was a lot of things. One, things are more complex than they appear. When you look at a news story, that there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot that reporters have to think about that I hadn't known prior to entering the newsroom in this way. But also, that reporter, who's a woman, caught most of the heat. Mm-hmm. In reality, it was the editors who approved that story to go through. They're the ones who gave it the green light. they didn't catch any of the heat. They're all white men. So for me, it brought into like a gendered understanding of, you know, it's still very much, it's very hard and can be more difficult for women in journalism. Actually got death threats from, you know, that officer's family. And it's just not, you know, had I not started at the Record and talked to people about it and learned that story, there's no way I would have known that. So I think that's one learning that I've had. The other is that this is the first time I've been with an institution or a company that, like, because it's journalism, is able to protect me in like a really tangible way. So I wrote a story about the Waterloo Regional, like the public school board.
Yep.
Waterloo Region District Public School Board. So I wrote a story about the trustees and a motion that went forward to review the school resource officer program. I had an interview with one of their superintendents who revealed that information about students, even students from other school boards, was shared with police in weekly meetings. That was interesting to me. And I asked him to, you know, verify, like, is that, you know, can you confirm that you do that? You know, right now the school resource officer program is supposed to be on pause while this thing gets reviewed. Do you actually share information, you know, about students from other school boards? And he confirmed it and gave like several examples. I ran the story with that detail. The following day, the school board emailed me and my editor saying, hey, we want to listen to that recording, and can you take that detail out of the story in the meantime? And, you know, I talked it through with the editors. They listened to the interview, they looked at my notes, and they said, no, we're not doing that, you know? And so for me, like, that was the first time that, like, I had, like, essentially, like, people with power, because that's what it is. It's they're protected by law. Journalists have this mandate and this they have the right to refuse that, even if it were to go to court. You know, I was protected, and so that was like a weird feeling to be like, whoa, you know, like I've never felt that before. You know, as a journalist, there are laws that protect you.
Cool.
So I mean, it's interesting. Yeah.
So you said that your education was not in journalism. What was your education in? And what are you still in right now? Because my understanding is you're in a PhD, master's, one of those two.
Oh my God, that was a sly diss. I almost spit on my drink. I should be doing a PhD at this point. My God. No, I'm doing a master's in community psychology now. My undergrad was in recreation and leisure studies with a specialization in therapeutic recreation. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah, was going to do and did work in clinical settings for some time, mostly with older populations diagnosed with dementia and severe dementia. But yeah, so I did that work for some time, did research in that area for a little bit. And then Andre and I moved to Korea to teach English for a year.
I remember that.
You do?
I remember that you went to Korea.
Yeah.
I have no idea what brought you out there in the first place. I assume you were just teaching English because that's most of what anybody going to Korea for an extended period of time is doing.
Yes, linguistic imperialism, as I like to call it. Yeah, felt a little bit weird about it for a lot of reasons, but yeah, we both wanted to do it. Honestly, the money brought us out there as well, because you know we're broke, still broke to some degree. But yeah, we went out there. We lived in Jeju. Jeju's the southernmost island on the south coast of the peninsula. We picked there because it's around the same weather temperament as Ontario, but actually, like, we thought it would be. It's an island, so the humidity was just through the roof. Typhoons here, like, now and again. We're also not like Ontario at all, but yeah, I did it for a year, and then we both got into school. She got into an MSW, a Master's of Social Work, and I got into a program, a Master's of Science at Guelph. I transferred out of that program, transferred all my credits, thankfully, to Laurier's community psychology master's program. And so I'm finishing my thesis and one course there. So COVID provided the necessary break I needed to transition, but I also I was happy to leave. It wasn't a good fit for me there at Guelph.
What was the key difference between Guelph and Laurier? If you're allowed to disclose.
I am allowed to disclose. No, I'm allowed to disclose. I'm just trying to think about how to frame it in a respectful way. I think the biggest thing for me was supervisor fit. So the supervisor that I was paired with at Guelph was just not brilliant and was very helpful in a lot of regards, in my academic career. But the person who I'm now with at Laurier is somebody who is more than just a supervisor for me. Like, I have a deep relationship with this person. Gotcha. She's a mentor. She's somebody I can go to for like more than just academia. So it's just, yeah.
It's a nicer environment.
The environment is, it's still the field of community psychology I still have critiques of. Now is not the time for that conversation, but definitely the person I'm working with is somebody who I want to be learning from and can create the environment that is conducive to my learning. And and I'm just picky as hell. So yeah. You ever did you do post-grad?
Oh no, I barely finished my undergrad because I in second and third year. So out of high school, I applied to a bunch of different math programs at Waterloo. Didn't get accepted into any of them. They were like, well, we'll give you this alternative offer to like honors mathematics. I'm just like, well, better than nothing is what I thought at the time. I'm sorry to think that maybe that's not necessarily true. But I was just like, yeah, sure, university is what you do after high school. I'll go. First year, crushed it. No problems. Maintained the same bad studying habits I had as a kid from like K to 12. And then second year hits. The Calc 2 or Calc 3 course just absolutely kicked my ass. I couldn't do anything that they were asking me to do. I didn't completely fail, but it was the first time I'd faced sort of academic difficulty. I'm just I was lost for a while about what am I doing here? Am I even supposed to be doing this? But I kept plugging away at it. And in third year, I was just like, okay, I need a break. I need to reset something because I used to be really good at school and now it's not coming to me as easily.
Right.
So I took a 15-month academic leave. Worked small jobs here and there, just to make a way for myself, pay for phone bill or whatever. And during that break, people kept on asking me, when are you going to finish your degree? When are you going to finish your degree? And it got really annoying. So I was like, all right, well, we'll just finish the degree. We'll get a degree. I don't have any goals in terms of what I want to get it in. So I went to an academic advisor and be like, what's the fastest way for me to finish any degree? And preferably away from math because, that was where I'd started to know struggles. So I looked around and was just like, okay, well, I have a bunch of econ courses that I took as electives. So that's probably where I can feasibly finish getting my undergraduate. So I got a BA in economics with a minor in math. And then people kept on asking me well, when are you going to get a job? I'm just like, oh man. Yeah. Just this familial expectation just aimed at me from mostly my dad's side of the family.
That pressure's real. That pressure's super real.
I am the only son on that side of the family, so I think that's where that's coming from.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I was the first person in my family to go to, graduate from university. And I glazed over my journey. I started at Laurier in English and film studies, double major. I really wanted to write screenplays. That was my dream. I realized that I don't need to go to school to be able to do that. It helps, certainly. Laurier was more film theory and less like, a professional sort of track. But I also was dealing with a lot of things at the time. Like my mom was very, very sick with a brain tumor and other health ailments. And my family, like they came to Canada as government-assisted refugees from Eritrea and Ethiopia. My parents. And they didn't have high school. They didn't graduate from high school. They came as government-assisted refugees, like people of high need in the 90s. And so I was born in Toronto. My brother Paul's was as well. And then my youngest brother, Sammy, was born in Cambridge. And then we moved to Kitchener when I was fairly young, I would say around 7 or 8. And yeah, so I spent my whole life like doing a lot of things for my parents, like a lot of translating, a lot of navigating different systems. So that on top of like the health crisis of my mom meant that I had to step up in a big way at that time. And I dealt with the stress in lots of maladaptive ways when I was, my first go at university. So I ended up, I went into academic probation like fairly quickly and then dropped out in my second year. Took a year off, and then I went to Conestoga, did a diploma in recreation and leisure. And then I converted or transferred that to Waterloo's program, their leisure studies program, which is a degree. So I was able to, there was an opportunity to not to turn that diploma into a degree. So I was able to transfer credits in that regard, and from Laurier. But yeah, I flunked out of university. Like that's partially why it took me so long. Yeah, it is taking me so long. But now once you get past the undergrad, like I don't think that, I wouldn't advise anybody off the bat to go to, grad studies. But if you're trying to figure out what to do and you can get it funded, it's not the worst thing, especially if you can find like a supervisor who you have could have a good relationship with. That's tough to find. So I don't, I wouldn't tell someone like do a master's, or do a PhD. Like, no, like if you find the right fit, like maybe it's still the academic industrial complex is. Anyways, I should be careful. I shouldn't talk too much. I wanted to ask you, have you been paying attention to Kenny Beats at all?
I have not. I've seen like posts every now and again about Officer or Mr. Beats, but don't really go too far into it. Is there something I should be knowing?
I think so. I think he's a very talented producer. He did he's done a series. Oh God, The Cave.
Yeah, The Cave.
I
saw his with. I think I want to say his videos with Joji and maybe Thundercat.
Within Staples, do you see that one though?
I don't think I did. No.
Okay. Yeah, I think there are some that you should definitely check out. Some are better than others, but they're all good. The running joke is that Zach Fox, anytime he does anything with Kenny Beats, it's always a joke, but it like garners the most hits. So he's making these joke songs, and like Kenny Beats is like an actual like he's a serious producer. Like, he's very good at what he does, and Zach Fox just turns it into a joke. That's funny in and of itself. But the funniest Kenny Beats and Zach Fox collaboration was not an episode of The Cave, but it was like a Twitch stream, and they remixed this video of, oh my God, it was somebody from, oh no, what's his name? It's this like his old head rap. Oh my God, no, I gotta look it up. 1 second. No, this is gonna kill me if I don't look it up.
Take your time.
Is there any way to? Can we watch it? Hold on a second. I don't know how Zoom works.
Yeah, there's a way to share the screen.
Okay, let's see here. Zach Fox.
I think I need to enable your ability to share the screen. So 1 second.
There it is.
Cool. The sharing has been enabled.
Okay. So wait, I need to start it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Quick, close all the tabs that you don't want people to see.
Okay, hold on a second. It's nothing too egregious. I'm just trying to see. I think it's important that you watch the original. What is this dude's name, though? One second. Okay, so I'm sorry. Busy Bone. Oh, Busy Bone. There it is. Okay, so Busy Bone from
Bone Thugs and Harmony. Yep.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so he had this stretch of time where he was just sort of he was having a moment, and he did this interview, or this not even interview. It was a freestyle that's like very much. It's like an Illuminati freestyle, like it's conspiracy rap, which I think is I think it's a very like interesting subgenre that has not been
explored as nearly as much as people would want.
Right. Okay, so this video got remixed by Zach Fox. Okay, so I'm gonna pull it up right now because of anyone in my. And honestly, I'm really excited to show this with you because of anyone in my like social media sphere would appreciate this. It's you. All right.
I appreciate it.
Can you hear that?
I cannot.
You can't?
No.
Oh, weird. Okay, how do I?
So
share computer sound. Got it. Okay.
I'm also not seeing the video.
Oh, that's weird.
Very weird.
Maybe it's because it's okay. Hold on a second. Let me just stop this for a second.
Send me the link, and we'll just like race to troubleshoot this.
Okay, listen. We'll figure this out.
Yes.
I think it's because I full screened it. Okay, I'll just send you the link. Oh my god. Okay, there you go. Oh god. Okay, there it is. Quick, close your links. Also, I was going to tell you to get a drink because I've been drinking. Like, this is actually something I was doing with some people, like Zoom. I was doing Zoom and Google Hangout cocktails and drinks. Mm-hmm. Oh, here we go. Okay.
All right. Hopefully the sound levels are okay.
Blood, but if we do suck blood, you know what it is, cuz.
Hey, speak.
And shit, I don't know who made that make sense, but when you call on the Illuminaries, this is why they said don't speak on the Illuminati. Not only is it Jesus' family, but it's also your family. See, the light that's guiding everybody is like a bad light. But when you have a good light, all you have to do is call on the Illuminaries and click the channel. It's going to talk to you about Mrs. Arnold. It's going to talk to you about your school. It's going to talk to you and tell you where you're going to be at the end of the day. See, Illuminaries can slip around the earth 7 times in 1 second. Them the Illuminaries. If anything is sitting on the earth and can claim themselves, then they are human and they can be killed. That's what the cult don't understand because they ain't never been with Christ. See, if you bring Christ to your cult, anything you kill shall die for eternity. And that's what people don't understand. That's why Christ came and he came dead. So they know if there's something you think is the Lord, bring Christ to your motherfucking core, nigga. Bring him to your core, nigga. And that we'll show you, nigga. That shit'll die forever, nigga. That's how we get down, nigga. The temple of motherfucking Christ. You better trust and believe. Oh, my purple homie? He keep a turban on. A pair of sayings, 300 pair of sayings tall. How you doing? And that's the way that we rock and we roll. And then that's a blessing. Because he could have killed me from there. But he said, know what? I'ma love that brother. And he understand where I'm coming from because of the thought patterns. You talking to a brother without a brain. That brother has a thought like a lightning bolt. A lightning bolt will burn a motherfucking Lee Vino with a golf club with iron in his goddamn hand. That's why he don't like metal. My bad. Busy bone, this is the way the fuck that we get down without any bullshit. If I put my hand out there, all I'm gonna say is, which one do you wanna be? That's my dad.
Hi.
I imagine that's what it's like to talk to someone with aphasia.
Yeah, I've talked to people with aphasia. Yeah, maybe. It's weird. He's obviously talking about some wild stuff, but the more I listen to it, the more it makes sense. And this is something that Andy made me. All you need to do is click on the channel. Okay? It's going to tell you this is Arnold. It's going to talk to you about, see, at the end of the day, and, oh my gosh, I wish we watched that video and let the sound together because I would have quoted that shit nonstop. But, oh man, you missed out. But this is engraved. Andy got this engraved for my birthday because of how obsessed we were with this. You don't understand. I was using quotes from this video in like phone calls for work. Like, oh my God, it was really, really bad. I was like, yo, thought patterns.
My purple homie.
Patterns. Okay. My purple homie? See, the light that's guiding everybody is like a bad light. Okay, so anyways, that's the original video. So Zach Fox, actually Kenny Beats, so Kenny Beats has Zach Fox on. Zach Fox suggested he remix this video.
Oh no.
Oh, and it is, I'm sending it to you now. It's very good. I would say skip to, you don't need to listen to them listening to the song. I would say skip to 403, 405.
Okay.
And then tell me if this beat is not hard as hell. It is actually, you know what? I would even say skip a bit further because, hold on a second. Let's see.
Sorry. That was 4 minutes, 3 seconds, you said?
Yeah, but I would say skip a bit further. Maybe go to like.
Oh, hold on. I found the share computer sound button. All right.
Oh, you found it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tell me, make sure you can hear this.
Bro, parasangs.
Yes.
Is an ancient Arabic
We solved it.
measurement.
It's a unit of measurement?
Yeah, it can be. You can like a parasang.
So I would say skip to like.
You're saying it again like it's going to make sense.
807.
Right.
I don't know because I don't really know what I'm talking about, so I gotta say it loud.
Talk to a brother without a brain, that brother don't pass. Talk to a brother without a brain, that brother don't pass. Talk to a brother without a brain, that brother don't pass. Talk to a brother without a brain, that brother don't pass. Talk to a brother without a brain, that brother don't pass. Talk to a brother without a brain, that brother don't pass.
God damn, nigga.
Talk to a brother without a brain, that brother has a thought like a lightning bolt. A lightning bolt, a burn motherfucking.
This that bass that'll give a motherfucker a miscarriage.
No, don't say that.
Talk to a brother without a brain, that brother has a thought. Talk to a brother without a brain, that brother has a thought like a lightning bolt. Talk to a brother without a brain, that brother has a thought like a light. Talk to a brother without a brain, that brother has a thought like a lightning bolt. Talk to a brother without a brain, that brother has a thought like a lightning bolt.
Where's the video at?
Talk to a brother without a brain, that brother a lightning bolt burn all fucking retard. He knows all club behind this guy.
Yo, so where's the video at?
909.
909?
Yeah.
Okay. I would say skip to, skip to like 15, 10.
rolling, and that's a blessing. Because he could have killed me from there. But he said, no what? I'm going to love that brother. And he understand where I'm coming from because of the...
Talk to a brother without brain, and brother passes. Talk to a brother without brain, talk to a brother without brain, and brother passes. Talk to a brother without brain, and brother has a lightning bolt, burn, motherfucking lead taste. Lightning bolt, burn, lightning bolt, burn, motherfucking lead tears. He know with all club iron in his goddamn hand. That's why he don't like metal. Talk to a brother without brain, and brother passes. Talk to a brother without brain. Talk to a brother without brain, and brother passes.
Put it back. Put it back. I already got it. Put it back.
All right, hold on.
Yo. So, like, flips the beat so nicely. And then, honestly, like, when he throws in the how you darn, that's another one that I use. I answered a phone call like that. I was like, how you darn? And someone was like, excuse me? It was somebody who has no... I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. How are you? Yeah. Oh, man.
Oh, man, that's good.
So good. And part of why I really want to share that with you is because I think that you have a really good taste in music.
Thank you.
Have you ever thought about like making, like producing or like DJing or mixing songs?
So here's the thing. I'm like oddly tone deaf where, you know, I understand that like these things I listen to, I enjoy, but I have no idea like where I would go to make that happen for myself.
But see but that's Zach Fox, right?
That's true.
So I don't think Zach Fox has the ability to break down a song like that. I don't either. But I know there are songs that I'll listen to something. I'm like, I want to hear this mix and master. I want to hear this chopped up and screwed. I just don't know how to do that yet. So I've got a playlist on YouTube of like all these like random ass things I want to sample because I know it would make a really, really like banging track. But I don't have those skills yet. Yeah. I'm just banking it for now.
We'll figure out how to put in some 808s and we'll make it happen. We'll collab. We'll make it work.
You know what though? So here's an option for you. So there's a local. Actually, are you local? You're local, right?
I currently live in Waterloo. I'm a Waterloo boy now.
Oh Lord!
At the start of the pandemic, when I was doing a bunch of these episodes, a lot of people asked us like, "Are you still living in Kitchener?" It's like, yeah, I don't think I could ever leave. And then in October, I'm just like, yeah, I'm moving to Waterloo, which isn't like the farthest thing, but it's also not Kitchener.
It's not Kitchener. Yeah. Yeah. I told you I just started this program and there's a bunch of people in it from out of town. Mm-hmm. They don't know shit about this place. And they're like, Waterloo, Kitchener, it's all the Waterloo region. I'm like, no, it isn't. Kitchener is different. Cambridge is different. The townships are different. And Waterloo is different. Anyways, there's this group. I don't know what to call them. It's like a midtown group. Midtown Radio. They have a radio show, and then they have an offshoot called Midtown Mixtape. Mm. They invite people to create mixtapes, just playlists of songs, and then they play it on the radio. And they say like, you know, so and so created this mixtape. We're gonna play it for you. Enjoy. And it's tough because I really want to submit something. And I've said that I want to, but everything I want to submit is like experimental, like house dance music. Sure. And I just don't know if that's like the vibe they're looking for.
The listeners may flip to the channel and be like, what is this? What is happening?
I don't know if they want to hear some like young black producer out of France, right? They're not ready for that smoke, but I still want to do it. I think, you know, I think the mark of a good producer or you know, DJ is being able to create playlists and songs and mixes that like anybody could enjoy. Mm-hmm. But I really want to impose something that they haven't listened to before. Yeah. And I'm seriously thinking about like just sampling like the end part of this song, the Busy Bone Illuminati rap freestyle remix, among others. That one's more of a joke. I probably wouldn't do that one honestly, but I think that you should do that. I think you should submit something.
Cool. I'll look.
It's easy. You don't got to mix anything up. In fact,
just send a list of songs.
Exactly.
I can very much do that.
You should do that.
I'm gonna
hold you to that.
We're gonna introduce people to the wonderful world of 88 Rising.
Jeez. Okay, I gotta ask you because I wanted to ask you. What's your favorite Kanye album? Actually, I'm sorry. Can you like rank them? I guess is better.
Oh, that's harder.
Is that harder?
Yeah.
Shit, I guess it is.
No,
whatever. Top three.
College Dropout. My Beautiful Dark
College Dropout
Fantasy.
is your first?
It's number 3.
Word. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait. It's number 3. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Probably College Dropout, Graduation, Dark Twisted Fantasy.
Dark Twisted Fantasy is your number 1.
Yeah, that's like the farthest from a hot take.
Is it? I mean, yeah. Okay, sorry. I guess you're right. It is the farthest from a hot take.
Yeah.
Most people will say that My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is the best Kanye album.
There was a time
I would argue that it isn't.
That's perfectly fair. There's a time when I was living close to Uptown Waterloo, back when they had like that piano by the shops.
And you played Runaway.
I really wanted to just like go, like I wanted to just go and just start playing the opening notes and see what would happen. And then I just never did because I did not.
No, I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad you didn't. No, because, I feel like, I've read a little bit about emotional cycles recently, where if you're going through turbulent times, you need some sort of release. For some people, that's physical activity. Other people, that's crying. For others, it's other things. And with that song, the beginning of it with those with that piano, it's so like the pauses between each note are so pregnant. There's such drama in that opening sequence, and then the release is the beat that drops. I feel like I would be so unsatisfied,
just
personally,
forever.
Just the piano forever. I actually feel anxious just thinking about it because the beat is what gives you that
tension.
release.
It's just tension.
Exactly. So I think like subconsciously you probably didn't do that because you knew that also. I'm so surprised 808s didn't make it like in your top 3.
808s is not one that I've listened to a lot. Maybe so like I'm being honest. 808s was not one that hit for me, so I just didn't listen to it that often. Like a couple times when it was released, but I haven't revisited it. So I may not be giving it its fair shake.
Yeah, you definitely not giving it its fair shake. That's 100%. 808s was 808s was so it came, and it came at a time of such strife for Kanye. It was just so inventive. It was such a pivot. Like nobody expected it. And like it birthed so many other rappers and styles. Like I would say even more so than previous albums. It was just that instrumental, that influential. It opened up the door to more emotional storytelling, like visceral, like if I could have a time machine, I would go back to a moment where he did, where he was touring, to do songs off 808s. And that's like, it's a little bit, I don't know, maybe a bit twisted because he was going through such trauma at the time, but he was just putting everything out on the stage. Have you seen Kanye? Oh, you have seen Kanye live because we both went to the same concert.
Yeezus tour with Kendrick when they were in Toronto.
Yeah. So I've only seen Kanye twice. Once was the Yeezus tour, which was great.
Yeah.
The second time was at the Pan Am Games.
Oh. I didn't realize who did that. Yeah,
he was one of the headliners. He was a headliner for the Pan Am Games. His opener was Pitbull, if you can believe that.
Of course, it's Mr. Worldwide. Why wouldn't he go to an international sporting event?
The big controversy was that because of the Pan Am Games, it was being broadcast on like huge networks. They were strict on time, and he went over his time, and it's still unclear to me whether he asked for the lights for the auditorium to be. Oh wait, hold on a second. My computer's gonna die.
Oh no.
It's okay. It's still unclear to me whether he asked for the lights to go on or if the network, if the networks had ordered it to stop the show. But I think the consensus is that Kanye wanted the lights on so people could see each other and him more clear. But then his mic turned off. They turned off his mic because they had to cut to commercial. So then he threw his mic up in the air, and then he stormed off stage, leaving the event. And at the time, I didn't no one really knew what happened, but all I knew was that I much preferred Kanye to Pitbull. Just being in that, in that space and listening to it. I was smoking and I was walking down the stairs, leaving the venue, and I could hear this kid with his mom. His mom was asking him, who did you like more, Pitbull or Kanye? And the kid was like, I like Pitbull. And they were like, I'm not a violent person. My knee-jerk reaction was to put my cigarette out on that kid's head. And it was just like, I was like going down the stairs. He was in front of me. I was like, no, that's obviously wrong. It was one of those id moments, right? Like, you can't do that. You can't even think that. That's wrong. And then there were interviews. I think it was Virgin Radio. They were interviewing people about what happened, and they interviewed me, and I told them that story. The next day I got a text from somebody. He was like, I heard you on Virgin Radio. You almost put a cigarette on someone's head, on a child's head. I was like, wow, I need to be careful what I put out in the world because people are listening. And I was like, and they didn't even use my name. This dude messaged me and he was like, I recognize your voice immediately.
Listen, you were just saying your truth, man.
Oh man, telling the truth gets you in trouble, man.
For sure.
That's the truth. I've also been wanting to tell you that story for a long time. That was a funny ass thing to happen.
I'm so happy that you told me that story. Listen, kids, they're gonna get away with a lot.
Kids are gonna. I don't blame that kid. I blame the parent. I blame the parent. That's parenting. That's a parenting.
They need to teach him. He doesn't know any better. He's a kid.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what my top three would be. Definitely 808s is up there. I like the Life of Pablo, but I would put it in my top three.
I enjoyed Life of Pablo a lot as well.
Is very hard.
Yeah. Ultralight Beam is or not even maybe. Ultralight Beam is definitely in my top 5 favorite Kanye songs.
I'm just trying to look. Maybe I would put College Dropout on there too, just because there are songs on there that I still quote.
And a hell of an introduction to Kanye the rapper.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, maybe not though. I'm trying to that track with that got Can't Tell Me Nothing. That's on. That's not on Graduation, is it?
Or that's not on Registration.
Is that on Late Registration? I'm trying to find it. I don't think so. Is it? No, it's not. Addiction was one of my favorite tracks. No, it's not.
It is on Graduation.
It is on Graduation. That's what I thought. Okay, so I just remembered because that track is just probably my favorite Kanye track of all time. That still has listenability now, and how good it is. I just remember that album being centered around that track. I do think that as an album it was put together fairly well, but 808s was just so inventive and such a pivot that I respected it, and it also was very good. I suggest listening to The Coldest Winter. I'm pretty sure that's the name of the track with Lil Wayne. Please listen to that track. I love that track. Yeah, and then Yeezus is also on my list.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard. Yeezus is, I think, my number 4.
Yo, so Chris, tell me, are you looking for love right now?
You know it, man. I've spent a lot of, like, from age. Okay, so again, this is another one of those like familiar expectations things. I got told I was cute by pretty much everybody at every family gathering forever.
Right.
To a degree that I did not see apply to any other small child in my years as an adult. So I definitely felt like, all right.
How many small children do you interact with?
Not a lot, but I've been to some family gatherings, like weddings and stuff, and people bring their kids, and nobody was ever to these other kids the same way they were to me. I was like friggin' tiny, cute Buddha as a small child, and I was just like, all right. I went through most of my like public school life being like, I'm just gonna kill them with looks alone. I'm friggin' adorable. This little bug, 10 out of 10. Not so much. Did not develop a personality to match the looks. And now as an adult, I'm just like, well, I'm not the hottest guy. And my personality is pretty much, I play online video games and have a lot of fun. But there's not a lot that I like. Like this podcast has given me like another thing to add to the profile as something that I can like do. So yeah, I spent, there was like a really dark period from maybe when I was like between 20 and 24. I was just like super lonely, like on the precipice, probably on the precipice of like becoming an incel without like fully succumbing to it. Luckily, thank God, those people.
So you are actively looking.
Yes.
I'm hearing a little bit of despair.
Yep.
I'm hearing some like self-deprecation. I don't know. I mean, I think that you're absolutely wrong about yourself. I think that you have a personality. I see it online all the time. I think there's this false dichotomy about online versus reality in terms of identity and expression of self. I mean, social interactions, and I would extend that to identity, has shifted into a new paradigm post-internet. I think that we need to stop thinking about that as a split, because that further entrenches this idea that it can only exist online. Online is reality. That's just the world we live in, especially in a pandemic where a lot of our interactions are, through these digital mediums. And based off of I know you from basically just online interactions, the majority online interactions. I think there might've been some interactions at UW because I think there was overlap while you were there. Mm-hmm. While we were both there, but no, you have interests. You have humor. Like you need to stop putting yourself in that corner. And I can think of a handful of people that I would love to set you up with.
Oh, thank you so much. I think a lot of where I struggle is that I generally don't like talking about myself that much. It's something that's like not served me well in terms of like developing a profile or even in like a job interview, being able to like talk about my own experiences where, there are things that like I know that are true that have happened, or like my accolades or accomplishments, but like I can never seem to think of them at the drop of a hat.
I'm with you. It's a little bit different for me in that it's hard for me to think or prioritize what I need to highlight at a drop of a hat, as you say. I often just end up just stuttering or talking way too much. But I love talking about myself. Bordering on narcissistic. The curse of being the easy. Stop. Yeah, exactly. No, but I'm very much a Scorpio through and through. But I think, I've hemmed that in, as I've grown older and matured. I see that very much in my brother. He met somebody online playing Overwatch.
Hey.
Yeah, he met a girl from the UK. The relationship blossomed. She actually went out to go see her. She then came to Canada to see him.
Sorry.
They moved out together. They lived together for some time. They dated for a year, 2 years, and then she moved. They broke up. It was his first serious relationship. I was pretty supportive. I would say more supportive than the rest of my family was. But, he met her online. He met her playing games. And I guess I want to ask you, is there anybody that you have met playing games online? Could be someone you could,
There is not.
How do you know?
Because everybody that...
Are you straight?
Primarily, yes. Okay. Primarily the way in which my primary game is World of Warcraft. So I have a group of 20 people that I have 3-hour sessions with on Tuesdays and Thursday nights to raid. They were all dudes except in the last month going into the next expansion. There's there's a woman in the group now, but I think she has a partner. So that's one game of one sort of pool of people, I guess, where there are no candidates. And then all the other games that I play with people that are in the region, and all of them either are men or the partners of the men that I play with.
Okay. All right. So
yeah,
maybe that avenue isn't one that you would go down currently.
Yes, currently.
But there are a lot of girl gamers out there.
Oh, for sure.
If we think about shared interest, right?
Yeah, and it's always nice. I think having at least one shared interest is something that's kind of required in a relationship. You can't, not required.
Ideal.
Yeah.
Sure.
I will say there is someone that had the audacity to swipe right on me on Bumble during quarantine. We went on a couple of dates, but she does not see me in a romantic way, which is what I'm kind of looking for. But she hasn't also said that she sees me in a strictly non-romantic way. She was unsure about her feelings towards me, which leaves me in the fun place of just I know what I want. Kind of.
All right, Chris. You're gonna have to give me your phone. Sure. I'm gonna have to commandeer your phone and send messages.
Yeah.
Chris, I'm not kidding.
I know you're not.
All right. What's her name? What's her name?
Daisy.
Daisy.
Yeah, she is a international student that goes to Conestoga.
No shit.
Yeah.
Interesting. What does she take?
I should know this. Food and nutrition.
That's very interesting. I've been thinking about writing a story about international students. Oh, I want to write a story about international students so bad. So bad. It's
just put that iron in the fire.
International student tuition bring 15 billion into Ontario's economy.
Number.
It's a wild number. And in fact, and I need to, I'll say right now that I need to cross-check this. I'm still waiting for a budget from UW. UW was going to go into a deficit because of domestic students not going into school. Because of international students, they're going into the fiscal year with a surplus. This is what I've heard. I need to double check that. But international student tuitions are absurd, and it is very, very difficult for them to navigate this world, this society. At post-graduation, what they're told, they're sold on a dream, and companies actually, I'm going to keep this company's name out of this call, but there is an investment and a lot of money dedicated to bringing international students to Canada, to the UK, to the United States. And we siphon the best and brightest from around the world to come here. And then the remittances that not just international students, but also migrant workers send back to other countries enshrines a cycle of dependency that keeps the global north, of which Canada is a part of, as a power, the hegemonic sort of balance of global relations. It's something that I've been struggling to figure out how to write about. But what I've seen is, it's international students in our region are so, we love to talk about how much, exactly, multicultural, and also the talent that we bring here. They want to come here. It's, Silicon Valley of the North, yada, yada, yada. And a lot of international students who end up at Conestoga were told by recruiters in their host country that they were going to a degree program. And when they get here, they realize, oh, no, wait, this is not that. But they're already here and they can't transfer. So they try. And it costs so much money. The housing housing for international students is precarious. So there's so much that I feel like nobody writes about this, and I so badly want to, but I just feel like there's this. It's a big topic, and I have a lot of other stories I'm working on.
Yeah, it's definitely a story that I don't see talked about as much, especially given that such a big demographic.
It's huge. There's so many international students, and the tea. I guess more tea is the fact that they represented the essential workforce during the early 2020 when the pandemic hit and the lockdown happened. They were the ones who were working really precarious and dangerous jobs, the jobs that people who are Canadians didn't want to do. They are the ones working as essential frontline workers. And it's just like, so we depend on them. And there are rules about international students and how much they can work while they're here as students. Like there's a limit. They can't go over that limit and be a student. So we make it hard for them to make a living and to save money. And then as soon as they graduate, there's a window of opportunity. There's a window that closes very quickly for them to do XYZ to ensure that they can stay here on a permit and not be here illegally. And the universities and post-secondary institutions don't make that easy. So, and the problem is that international students don't want to talk to reporters about this because they're afraid of rocking the boat. They even while they're getting absolutely taken advantage of, they don't want to risk getting into trouble. For them, even just getting to Canada is such a privilege, and they're just so blessed and grateful. But most international students I talk to who are at the end of their studies realize they've been sold something that they agree to something that they didn't know that they were agreeing to, and the veil's been lifted. So I've struggled to find international students to talk to about this. I've only really talked to one who was willing to really break it down, but then she didn't want to go on the record. So I had nothing.
Is there surely there must be some kind of group advocating for these people?
Yeah, so there's at Laurier there's the International Institute for Migrant Justice. I'm sorry, I'm butchering the name. I should know the name of this group, but even that group isn't completely advocating for international students. I would say in our region, it's a gap. York University offers, for an example, if we're comparing universities and what they offer students, the University of Waterloo is much lauded for bringing international students into engineering and computer science from around the world. For them, it's very talent focused. It's very industry focused. And I would say those students are not the vulnerable ones. The vulnerable ones are the ones who are undocumented. They're the ones who come here as refugees. But definitely the ones who are undocumented because they don't have access to healthcare. They don't have access to education.
and they don't have access to employment. They have to do everything in the margins. And they're these families who are living even in our region as undocumented are one crisis away from absolute like devastation.
Mhm.
And they have to do everything. They have to get paid in cash. Everything is in the dark. And we think this happens in the States primarily, or in Toronto because of the border. But this happens in Canada too. It just happens less because of how Canada's set up. And how like people could come here, but what the way it happens is people come here on a permit to work, and then that permit expires, and then they're not able to, for one reason or another, get status. So they end up staying here, but they're quiet. Mm-hmm. Nobody's saying anything, and they're at risk. York University offers students who don't have status to enroll as domestic students and not as international students, because the cost would be just astronomical. Mm. No, there are no post-secondary institutions in our region that offer that. There's nothing like that.
It is indeed a gap.
It's a goddamn problem, and it's So I mean, that's one story that I'm working on. That I obviously I feel very strongly about. Mm-hmm. People who are willing to talk to me under, condition of anonymity. That I'm very, I'm very happy to provide them that cover. But and that's also, I mean, you talked a bit about like how difficult it was for you. Was it from the years from when you were 20 to 24? Is that what you said? Yeah.
Because like dating was something that I was not particularly keen on doing, but it feels like, that's one of those things that, one of those societal expectations, which I think is what, like originally what incel was like sort of looking towards, right? Where people just didn't have an interest in, like sexual intercourse with anyone. They were just kind of, just strict by strict definition of the term, involuntary celibate.
Yeah. I'll put a pin in that and come back to it. Sure. But I also felt, and maybe even a bit earlier to that, and extending to now, well, not so much, maybe until 2018, I was in the absolute like depths of despair and wanting to leave this region so badly, because I could see gaps like that existing everywhere, and problems in our region that people weren't addressing, or they were glossing over, and people who were being left behind, people like my family and people like the people that I worked with as a youth worker or as an independent facilitator, and just the burden of advocating for them and seeing no change for years.
It's frustrating.
Like it was more than frustrating. It broke me. It literally broke me. Like multiple breakdowns, just crying, like realizing like how futile it is. But this year, I would say more than any other time in my life, I saw a breakthrough. It's the march, the KW Solidarity March, which turned out to be the third largest march in all of Canada. I was part of that organizing team, right? Like, yep. And it came out of a tradition of Black activism, of fighting for Black rights, and also the rights of complexly marginalized communities. I had always been doing that, but I didn't have the base of people and organizers that I do now. And the march kicked off like a series of things that have now led to like tangible change. I can see it now. Even though I can see those gaps still exist, those problems still exist, I'm also seeing change. And when I think back to that time when I was really, really down and sad and depressed about the state of things in Waterloo region, at that time I wanted to leave and was dead set on leaving. I had my eyes set on Halifax. Now I feel much more willing to consider staying here. And it's because of the change I've seen and the opportunities that are opening up for communities that didn't exist before. So yeah, I don't know how we got to that point, but I feel like it's tough to see problems, but more than any other time in my life, I feel more hopeful now than I have.
I was going to say, there's a very hopeful tone.
Yeah, but I want to come back. I want to come back to something. Did you say that you technically were an incel from 20 when you were 20 to 24?
I think, yeah.
Okay.
Like my strict definition of like someone who was celibate, not like the label that gets tossed around these days, where it's just kind of mostly misogynist group of individuals.
Yeah, that's yeah, I don't know why, like what is really the difference between celibate and asexual? Is there a difference?
Beats me. I don't know which term has been around longer.
I think asexual.
Probably.
Like incel feels newer. Like within the last 10 years. Asexual I feel like has been around for much longer. I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm speaking I know, but I actually don't know.
I also don't know. So yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, like I did a lot of work with the sexual assault support center, SASC. Well, I didn't do work with SASC specifically. I actually got training with their Male Allies program, which gave me training and sort of workshops to use in the work that I did with the City of Kitchener and their youth drop-in programs around, healthy and toxic masculinity, sexual and gendered violence. That really changed things for me in terms of like how I relate to people and how I carry myself. How do I practice healthy masculinity? And there was some talk of how do you engage people who might identify as incels? This is a group of people who feel disenfranchised. They feel like a lot of people feel like they are being given the short end of a stick. And for some people it turns to violence. Mm-hmm. There's 100% a link between disfranchised men who feel disenfranchised by women and the result of that disenfranchisement being violence towards women. That it may not have been called incel for decades before it was called incel, but I see a thread. Mm-hmm. Knowing that, like seeing that sort of community of people, like yourself identifying with that community on a technical basis, maybe engaging with other people who also identify as that. How did you navigate that sort of toxic culture that may have emerged in various subreddits or threads or what have you? Mm-hmm.
So I think the way I went about conducting myself online was not thinking about it in terms of like attributing any sort of blame to other people, and rather than just accepting that like it was not something that I was interested in.
Something like what?
Just like sexual relationships.
Right. Yeah, because from what I understand, like incels talk about feeling like the reason they don't have sex is because women are denying them it. But that's not how you feel.
No, it was just something that I wasn't interested in at the time.
I think that's a key. I think that's a really key difference. Like, mm-hmm. I often feel like incels. I mean, maybe you can correct me, but I feel like the way that it was taken up and has been taken up is that incels talk about, on whole, being denied something.
Yes.
Whereas just not being interested in it, that feels closer to asexual than it does, mm-hmm.
And like
being celibate.
I think that's where the sort of dividing line comes in between the two terms, where I think like it was from a time where sort of sexuality was less fluid, where, you know, if you were asexual, it was just something that you were never going to, and you would like never be interested in sex at all.
Right.
Whereas opposed to like an incel was
Hmm.
just like, here's just a period of time where you have this sort of characteristic about you.
Right. So there's like a temporality associated there. Interesting.
That'd be my guess, at least.
No, that's super interesting. I think this is worth like a deeper dive.
But yes.
I'm good to keep talking, but I gotta use the washroom. I'm about
Yeah,
to
that's perfectly
burst.
fine. We can
Okay,
put this on pause.
okay, give me 1 second. This is the voice of God.
Oh God, what have I done? Welcome back.
So much. So yeah, thanks for that.
No worries. This is a podcast first.
Is it?
Yeah. Granted, most of the other recordings have like lasted maybe 60 to 90 minutes. So there was less of a need to have a bathroom break.
Yeah, and I've been drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of ground to cover. I was curious. I mean, were there any like burning questions that you had for me? You got me. It's taken how long? Months?
I think I sent you a message in like, actually, so you are a guest who I've been, you know, very hesitant to have on, as I mentioned at the top of the recording, because like I perceive you as an individual who is very busy. They're busy doing good work. So like any time that I take away from, like any time that is spent recording this, I feel like detracts from that. And I want more good things out in the world, so I want to just like not bother you.
That's really kind of you to say. I was hesitant too, because this is the sort of thing I don't usually talk about. I don't put a lot of myself out into the world. And I know that sounds like kind of like a wild thing to say because of how public facing I am. You know, or at least like if that's something that you've, you know, perceived, you know, in my busyness is the, you know, community front that I have. But yeah, I don't share a lot of personal stuff. I'll share opinions,
Yeah, for sure.
you know, and, you know, I will stand by things that I believe I need to stand by, and will take a hard stance.
But it is very much like you said, the community is what you want to like point people's attention toward. It's not about like Fitsum the person. It's about these causes that Fitsum believes in.
Yeah, no, I very artfully like shield myself or hide like really personal parts of myself from people. I would even say, like, even in this conversation, you know, I very quickly, you know, from the outset, interviewed you.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
It caught me off guard for sure.
You know, because it allows me to take control of the situation. But I also was curious because, you know, you know, compared to other guests you might have, you have less material to work with in the sense that we don't have as much shared history, but our circles, you know, online
our Venn diagram is pretty big.
Our Venn diagram is big enough to warrant an invitation. Yes, I would agree with that. But I was curious. You know, I wanted to learn more. I also felt like, you know, maybe that might ameliorate or make the podcast easier for you, if you know I led.
Yeah.
But if I'm honest with myself and with you, it's also an effort to avoid talking about like really personal things, you know, in my own life. Mm-hmm. But I think some of that came out still.
Oh yeah, we got there.
Did we? We can go deeper, I'm sure.
Ever so slightly.
I prefer this.
We scratch at the surface.
I prefer this to therapy. But yeah, no, I'm very invested in ensuring that you get linked up with somebody romantically.
Thank you. I look forward to hearing your who you know. I guess I feel like a creep right now.
No. I'm thinking of somebody right now. She's a bit older. I would say maybe early 30s. She works in harm reduction, or like in other words, like social services, addiction services. Tatted, vegan, bodybuilder, or maybe ex-bodybuilder, doesn't do that as much anymore. Such a big personality. I think she's so rad. She came to mind right away, because I think that would be a good experience, and I think your politics align. Yeah, I kind of want to set something up, and then there's a few other people. But before I, share that, I need to ensure that you're committed. I think the other thing too is that, your note about advancing or expanding, like your experiences. I think you said advancing.
Yeah.
My knee-jerk reaction was, anti-capitalist, and like fight that. But, as a writer, that is definitely like a thing that people talk about as necessary. You can't write about things you don't know about. So go experience those things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, maybe I just need to take you on like some experiences.
Maybe we'll be a buddy film, feature film.
Are you going to say it, or am I going to?
Go for
Rush
it.
Hour?
Oh yes, of course.
Come on.
Hell yeah, Rush Hour.
Which one's your favorite one?
2.
Easily.
Yeah.
Easily. Yo, I've heard some things. Like, I used to think Jackie Chan was the shit. I've heard some,
oh yeah, he is not.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
He is a master of his craft. His politics are kind of whack.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah.
Until like fairly recently.
I think that goes for a lot of
people. Yeah.
Like stars that are big in China. And the reason why, and like sort of it's like they're allowed to be big in China because they don't have I guess like the sort of contrarian, like anti-CCP sort of politics, or at least publicly.
Yeah, right. That's interesting. I can definitely see that. Like Jackie Chan was seen as like a main export, right? Like a cultural export,
yes.
A pride of the nation. So anything that would have been negative would be suppressed, and not like actively critiqued. But yeah, learned about some of the shitty things. And like Rush Hour 2, like there are aspects of it that aren't like I look back at it now, I'm like, is that dated? But goddamn, if it doesn't like like hit those notes for me, like it brings me back to when I first watched it.
You can be allowed to enjoy it knowing that it was it is a product of its time at points.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
They just didn't know.
Yeah. And Chris Tucker, like for the long, he was really good friends with Michael Jackson. Like Michael Jackson would even take him on tour, like would bring him on stage to sing. Yeah, like he just like chilled, Yeah. He made bank.
Yeah, got the bag.
Yeah. And like his stand up early on was so like he was electric. Like the Def Jam comedy series. I don't know if you've seen any of that.
I have not. I'm familiar with it and like the broad sense.
Yeah, it was a period of time. Like they don't do it anymore. Yeah, like Def Poetry series, like Kanye, like he did something for that. And then like the Def Comedy Jam, like oh my god, there was just so many like huge acts that like started there, including Chris Tucker, and that was for a lot of people the first time that that was his big breakthrough.
Yeah.
He was so young. That stand-up is definitely worth watching. Yeah, just a really good set. But yeah, and then after the Rush Hour movies, he just chilled and didn't do that much. I can't think of anything he did that was like super noteworthy. But anyways, to get off Rush Hour, I could take you around.
So one thing that I wanted to sort of loop back around to was like I explained this to, I think, potential future guest Julia Spiegel, where like this show gets a lot easier for me the closer my guest gets to just performing a soliloquy or a monologue. Where it's like I just need to ask questions, just like have my guests just run with it however they feel. And usually when the time comes for my guests to flip the script on me and start asking me questions, as I mentioned before, I'm not particularly keen on talking about myself in any way. Today, much easier for some reason.
I'm glad to hear that.
You have a presence, a calming presence that allowed me to speak about myself today. Thanks, Fitz.
I'm really, really happy to hear that. I don't know. Like, I guess today more than any other day of like being at the record, I like really questioned like, do I have what it takes? Like, can I even be a journalist? I don't know. I wouldn't say that like this podcast was at all like the way that I would conduct like an interview for like a story.
Thank God for that, because that would be a mess.
Yeah, no, it would probably be no, like I'm not this. For me, it was a conversation with somebody who I've always wanted to have like a deeper conversation with. But I like if I really think about it, like there is something about like people seem to open up to me. People just tell me shit, and I don't know what it is. I honestly think it's my glasses. The moment I take my glasses off, people are like, "Oh, scary dude." It's only because I'm so blind, I'm squinting. People think that I'm like looking angrily, but
I see.
I don't know. What's your prescription?
I actually like don't know offhand like the definition of my prescription. I know that I am incredibly myopic.
Myopic, okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm like -4 in each. I think that like myopism.
Sure, myopia.
Myopia. Yeah, okay. Is like worse in one eye, but I don't know which one. But I would seriously consider getting laser eye surgery.
I've thought about it, but I think.
Why wouldn't you?
I guess there's no reason for me to not do it. I just kind of like having glasses.
You can still wear glasses after you've gotten laser eye surgery.
That's true.
I almost got in Korea because it's like so much cheaper there.
I was about to say that's definitely
it's a thing. It's a phenomenon. Like people go to Korea,
like surgical tourism.
Like exactly. No, that's the thing. Medical tourism. People will go to Korea like specifically for surgeries. A lot of it plastic surgery.
Yeah, I was going to say like the plastic surgery market in Korea is like incredibly massive.
Yeah, booming. Yeah, absolutely. That 100% is a thing. I seriously thought about it. Didn't end up doing it. Kind of regret it, honestly. I wish I did. If and honestly, when I go back to Korea, I'll consider doing it then. I just hope it's not like so far in the future that it wouldn't make sense to get the surgery then. Like I think like if I'm going to do it,
you want to have time to enjoy your glasses-less experience.
Exactly right. My cornea, like when I went for it was like a consultation at LASIK MD, like downtown Kitchener. They told me that my cornea was too thin for LASIK, so they'd have to do like another version. Like LASIK is when they peel a layer of your cornea, and then stick the laser in, fix it, and then put the flap back. But if the cornea is too thin, they can't do that. So they do something else. I think it's called PRK, where they shoot the laser through the cornea. And then there's a longer healing period. They made it seem like that way of doing laser eye surgery was less advisable. I've read a lot that like pushes back against that and says, in fact, it's fine. It just a
It's just
bit
a different
longer.
process.
It's just a different process. But yeah, I would be curious. I would want to do that.
I also suspect that that the surgery that I had last year may prevent me from getting any sort of LASIK. So in September of 2019, I noticed that like my vision was kind of fuckier than normal, even with like my prescription. So I went to the optometrist. They were like, "We noticed a weird like sort of detachment on your retina," and they referred me to an ophthalmologist, and they're like, "Yeah, yeah, you got like a minor detachment and like fluids getting in kind of like in the back of your retina." Then they referred me to like the Ivy Eye Institute in London, and they're like, "Yeah, you need surgery." I'm just like, "Oh, cool." That was like to get retinal detachment surgery at like 27. Just like, am I an old man?
Damn,
yeah, that was cool.
They didn't send you to Waterloo to the optometry school?
No, I guess just like the tools needed weren't like that wasn't a viable thing. I guess I don't know. Had to wake up at like 4 a.m. to get driven out by my mom to London.
So is that like an elected surgery, or was it covered under healthcare?
It was covered under. I can't remember if it was covered. It was definitely covered. I don't remember paying a dime. I don't remember by which means it was covered, either by employer insurance or OHIP.
Wait, where do you work?
I work at Allianz Global Assistance. It is an insurance.
Allianz?
Yeah.
Wait, how do you spell that?
Allianz. I had a bit in a previous episode where I would bleep it out whenever I said it, and then I realized I don't want to do that this time. So I'm just gonna let it fly.
Okay.
Yeah.
German multinational financial.
Oh yeah, they have an arena in Germany where they play football.
Football, yeah, sure. Oh man, okay, that's interesting. I'll look into that. I don't know if you watch. I don't know how much TV you watch. You spend any time watching?
I don't really have like a TV to like flip through channels. I tend to like to say I have a decent like finger on the pulse of things that are good on television.
You watch any Apple TV?
I do not have Apple TV, but I heard I have a friend who's very much like an evangelist for what's the show with Sudeikis? Ted Lasso.
Yes, Ted Lasso. That's exactly what I was going. But yeah, you got it. Yeah, you sense where I was going with that.
Right.
Yeah, I was so surprised at how much I like that show.
It is quickly approaching a critical number of people where I am willing to watch it, and also similarly close. Like so the margin of space between like people I know like the show and keep recommending it, so I'm going to watch it, versus like people I know like the show keep recommending it, and it's actually like too many people that I don't want to watch it anymore, is very small.
That's interesting.
But we may have just crossed the threshold of being able to watch it still.
I'm glad. I was just so I wasn't going to suggest you watch it. I've stopped doing that because I find that I get really like unreasonably upset when people do not watch the shows I tell them to watch. And also I get so unreasonably angry if people end up watching a show that I'd previously suggested, but then don't acknowledge that I had suggested it. It's just not like it doesn't make any sense.
What is an example of a show that you recommended that people didn't actually end up watching?
That didn't end up watching?
Yeah.
I would say okay.
Or more specifically, do you remember the last one you recommended people watch before, like the straw that broke the camel's back on that line of
Yeah, no, I have it. I'm just trying to think of it. It's The Night Of, I think. Yeah, The Night Of, HBO show.
I recall hearing about it. Didn't end up watching it.
Like most people. Yeah, Riz Ahmed, John.
Turturro.
Yeah. This was like a passion project for the dude who headed up The Sopranos. Why am I blanking on his name? What is his name? Hold on a second, I'm looking it up now. Production. Where is it? Oh, right, Gandolfini.
Gotcha.
Yeah, James Gandolfini. He
That's
was
cute.
supposed to. He was supposed to star in that because it was based on a British television series, and then HBO was going to pick it up, and James Gandolfini was just pushing it through. That he died, and then it just sort of sat there for a while until it was picked up again. And it's just such a good show. It's really, really well done. Riz Ahmed is just he just acts. His performance is really, really great, and it deals with a lot of issues that I'm interested in. Riz Ahmed is caught in a situation where he's he gets caught up in the criminal justice system, and the show just espouses the complexities of that system.
Gotcha.
But it's also it's a whodunit. Yeah. And so I just oh my God, I talked about the show a lot and people weren't watching it. And I was like, okay, fuck this, I'm done. And John Turturro is probably one of my top 5 favorite living actors right now.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I remember him from 2 things. That movie where he's a gigolo and what's that Adam Sandler movie?
What? Those are the 2 that you can wait. What?
I admittedly have not seen John Turturro in a lot of things.
No.
It may only be those 2 things. I do occasionally have the urge to do a dive on an actor's filmography. So maybe John Turturro is the next one.
I would suggest doing that. I think that you can split actors into categories. Actors are either shitty,
prestige film.
Well, I was going to say character actors or actors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, shitty actors. We don't have to talk about them. They'll do whatever, and maybe can coast on their their natural attractiveness or whatever. Character actors are people who will generally play the same character over and over again, and they just do it either really well or really bad. And then people who are very, very adaptable and versatile, they can do a lot of different things, and they're just really, really good at it. I would say John Turturro so artfully he does a lot of the same character in a lot of movies, but I wouldn't classify him as a character actor. I think there are more roles that he's done that are different from each other than the ones that are the same. But even the ones that are the same, there's just something so likable about it. There's something so impressive about it. He just does it really, really well. So he's somebody who I would say if you were to go through someone's filmography, Turturro is a good one to do. And I can send you an article from The Ringer that makes a really good case for John Turturro.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was based on a movie he was in that was about poker. Yeah, I think it was poker. And it was with oh my God, who's that dude that says, how do you like them apples? What's his name?
Matt Damon?
Yeah, Matt Damon. Pretty sure it was Matt Damon. Who? Yeah, whatever. We don't have to talk about Matt Damon. But yeah, who else? Who would you say are your top 5 actors?
Ooh, actors? Oh God.
Okay. No, you know what? Actually, no. Fuck that. Fuck that question. Or can you answer?
So I was just going to sort of counter where it's just a lot of my sort of media consumption is less critical and more just pleasure based. I don't like saying the word pleasure. So there's definitely a certain type of actor that I enjoyed, So, for example, I mentioned that I will do dives on like an actor's filmography. The actors I've done that with so far are Jesse Eisenberg, Jay Baruchel, and Jason Schwartzman.
Okay, and you know what? Like, I'm into that. I am into that. I do think, and yes, I think that I tend to think maybe a little more critically, but I also love like a really good like guilty pleasure movie.
Oh, for sure.
Like the Fast and Furious series is so dumb and so fun. I don't know if you saw, they're gonna do like the next movie will be like Fast and Furious but in space.
I did not see that at all.
Oh my Lord, please, like for this podcast, can you just like in post just put it like, yeah, just make sure that people can see it.
Now. The one thing that has come up in this podcast is like if I'm ever pimped into like doing like some specific amount of editing, I have to do it.
Yeah. Yes, please do. But yeah, no, I tend to think of things like or view films like, you know, a little more critically, and it can be annoying. Yeah, no, and you know, did you say was one of them Michael Cera? Did you say that?
No, but he is very much of the sort that like of the similar sort of ilk as who did I say? Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah.
And Jay Baruchel and Jason Schwartzman. All J names now that I think about it. That's weird.
I mean, it's fine. But yeah, for years, I would say Michael Cera, he's very much a character actor. He's always playing the same sort of like type of person. The people who are like most likely to win Oscars, which like whatever, like they're sort of like a much maligned award show now. But people who broke out of like characters that they would usually play would win Oscars. Like, you know, Heath Ledger broke out of his like heartthrob, like, you know, attractive teen character rom-com person
to be the Joker, Pat.
Joker, and I think I thought he won for Brokeback Mountain.
Yes,
as well. I love that movie. I only recently watched it, which is wild. I realized the reason I didn't watch it for years was because of like homophobia, and like it came out at a time when I was so young and like didn't want people to know that I watched it because I didn't want people to make fun of me. And like years later, I realized I hadn't watched it for that reason. I was like, that's bad. Like that's wrong. Like I should watch it. And I watched it and it was great. But yeah, Michael Cera is like Denzel Washington also won an Oscar when he broke out of character for Training Day, which is probably my favorite movie, like top 3 for sure. Because he played a bad guy. For years, he'd always played the good guy. In Training Day, he was the villain.
Oh. I've not seen Training Day.
No?
No.
Oh, you gotta watch it. It's so good. Oh my God. Snoop Dogg's in it, Dr. Dre. Oh my God. You gotta watch it.
I'm on board immediately.
Ethan Hawke. Like,
yes.
Yeah. Anyways, Michael Cera, for years I would tell people Michael Cera is gonna win an Oscar. Because Michael Cera always was the same person. When he decides that he wants to break out of that character, he's gonna win an Oscar. It hasn't happened yet. I haven't said that in a long time.
We're still hopeful.
I don't know if I'm hopeful. I'm not open about that. Like I used to just really, really confidently say that. I just don't say it as often anymore. But yeah, no, that's fair. No, that's fine. Like what's a good one that you watched recently?
I haven't actually watched a lot of movies lately. Do I still have them on my drive? Because there was, it had Jesse Eisenberg in it. I can't remember it now. So I guess
the Social Network.
No.
Okay.
I can't think of it. My bad.
That's okay. Jesse Eisenberg, like, I haven't heard anything from him in a long time.
He was in a horror movie last year called Vivarium.
Is it good?
Yes, it freaked my mind.
Do you like horror movies?
Yes.
Okay, can we watch a horror movie sometime?
Absolutely.
Virtually? Okay, because Andrea won't watch them with me.
Really?
Yeah, it's a point. It's a point of contention.
Unlucky.
Unlucky. Yeah, it sucks. I don't want to watch it alone because I actually get like really, really scared. And I want to get scared with somebody else. Okay, so how about this then? Let's plan to watch a horror movie, like online sometime, because we're going into a pandemic. There's no way we're watching anything in person. Or sorry,
Yes.
We're going into another lockdown. Is what I meant to say.
Wave.
Yeah, second wave.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Luckily,
cool.
Zoom has share screen and one-on-one call durations last infinite.
Nice.
We'll negotiate the details off the record.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do that. I do want to suggest that we bring this call to a close relatively soon. But I want to say, have you seen the trailer for Fat Man?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So there's a podcast I listen to called Hollywood Handbook. It is an insider's guide to kicking butt and dropping names in the red carpet line back colleagues of the century we call showbiz. It's just two guys who are like former, or not even former writers, just like writers in Hollywood, but like they don't really have like, big projects to their name. But they sort of treat their podcast with like it's incredibly irreverent and ironic podcast. But they have the segment called Teaser Freezer, where they look at movie trailers and just like break down some absurdities. It's all good fun. It's like watching like Mystery Science Theater 3000.
I love media analysis. That's awesome.
Yeah, and in the most recent paywall version of their show, they did a Teaser Freezer on Fat Man. Nice.
Oh my gosh, that blew me out of the goddamn water. I did not know. Yeah, like somebody suggested, like somebody posted in a group, like a Facebook group of like a bunch of like media industry people in Toronto, like posted this video and was like, do not read anything about this online. Just watch this first. And I was like, oh my God, like there's no movie this year that I'm more excited to watch than this one. And I was so disappointed by Tenet.
I've not yet seen Tenet, and I don't think I have much interest in actually ultimately watching Tenet.
Unless there's subtitles, there's no point, in my opinion.
Yeah, Nolan definitely got a lot of heat for his style of inaudible dialogue.
Yeah, well, I mean,
offset by incredibly booming sound effects.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and someone did break it down for me, and I can see it. Like his rationale is, it's a method to bring people into the world. But if I can't hear what they're saying, and I always watch with subtitles so I don't miss anything, it's like I lose interest like really, really quickly. With a movie that dense, like you need to know what's happening. But sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, get your thought out, because
I was gonna say, what's my outro gonna be?
So there are, while this podcast is generally a conversation, there are some notes I'd like to hit. So you will have at the very end, you will have a moment to plug anything you want to plug. But before that, the one thing that I absolutely want to make sure I get to, Fitsum, if you were to host your own version of this show where you talk to someone that you haven't talked to in a while, who would that person be? I know you mentioned that you need to link up with Kaz a bit earlier. That doesn't necessarily disqualify him from being the answer to this question.
If I could have anyone
from your life, I don't need to know who they are in the slightest. But someone from your life who you haven't talked to in a while.
Living.
Yeah.
I have some controversial people. I'm not going to say those names. If I could have anybody, maybe I would have.
If you don't want to say the name, may I ask what makes them stand out to you as a candidate for this question?
Well, I think it comes down to motivation, because there are a lot of people who might agree to being on a podcast with me, for a conversation that lasts like X amount of time, there are a lot of people who I can think of who would agree to it willingly, and it would be a great conversation. It would be life-giving. It'd be whatever. Mm-hmm. But there's another part of me that realizes that if I could have anybody, that also means people who would not agree to it.
Oh yeah, and that's
right. And that's where my interest sort of goes, like initially mm-hmm. and immediately, because that almost never happens. And like people tend to veer away from conflict. I don't. The only reason I'm thinking about not saying the name I'm thinking of is because it would just cause a lot of turbulence in people's personal lives. But I will say that it's like a teacher that we had at Cameron.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I'll just leave it at that. But if I could have anybody on a call, I think it would be. I think it would be. Maybe my grade 4 teacher.
Nice.
My grade 4 English teacher, Mr. Hauser. Yeah, he was just somebody who was so like I really, really responded. Like the classes I did well in were the ones that I had like really good relationships with the teacher. Teachers who, were respectful and could see potential and value in me versus like a lot of other teachers, mainly in the maths and sciences is what I found. Like all through like secondary and elementary school were just very, very like dismissive and like never really gave me a shot because they didn't think that I could cut it. But there were a lot of teachers, mainly in the humanities, like history and English, who were more supportive. And this one teacher was very, very, very supportive and would give me all sorts of readings and books that like weren't even a part of, the curriculum, just invested in me.
Caring teacher, like an invested teacher.
Yeah. And I don't think I ever really told him how much that meant. And I would love a conversation, with him and just to talk about, how much that meant and how that was so foundational for everything else that has, transpired. I think that would be the sort of conversation I'd like to have, because I don't know how that could happen otherwise if it weren't for this hypothetical situation.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are now approaching like 2.5 hours in call, so I think it's sufficient time to sort of wrap this up. As always, I'd like to give my guests a moment to plug anything that they care about. So Fitz, take it away.
It depends. When will this go live?
This will go live next Sunday. So not on the 15th, but on the 22nd.
Oh, okay. Okay. So then in that case, I will plug this organization. It's grassroots in KW. They're called AFRO. It's an acronym for African Family Revival Organization. It's run by one Black mother who saw that her children and her children's friends needed a space in the community in Waterloo region to be free, and also to have like cultural programming. So she's been running it for several years now, and it has been lately running on fumes, like looking for funding, trying to build sustainability and capacity. And that program, that organization is like a perfect example of like the kind of thing that needs to be invested in, that absolutely needs more exposure, that needs more attention on it, because they're doing amazing work. And I would just, I want to plug them and say like, that's the sort of group that needs more, more support and more people saying like, that's the sort of thing that needs resources. So I'll plug Afro.
Wonderfully done.
I'll send you the link.
Yep. And that will be in the episode description. I'll be sure to check it out.
And I'm going to send you the outro that I want.
Oh God. Okay.
Oh God.
I'll add it. I got you.
Bless.
All right.
Yeah. So that'll be it for this episode of Hello, We Don't Talk About Sog.
Oh wait, hold on a second. Do I suggest somebody for you to talk to?
I take those answers off the record.
All right.
Just so that there isn't the pressure, but I generally do follow up on that anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
All right.
But yeah, so that's it for us here today at Hello, We Don't Talk About Stock. All two of us. Listener, whoever you are, wherever you are, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.